Right now I'm going to show you neck dynamics and truss rod adjustments.
When you're dealing with truss rods, you're going to be sure to make sure you have the right tools. This particular instrument is going to use an 1/8 inch Allen wrench, but you might encounter some other tools that might be used on other types of guitar brands. Just make sure you keep the tool that came with your instrument. It's very important to not lose it, because what's going to happen is if you use the wrong tool, you're going to strip something and it's going to be bad news. Don't want that to happen. Before we can adjust the truss rod to whether we tighten it or loosen it, we're going to need to see which way the guitar neck is curving. Is it a back bow or is it an up bow? Okay. Now you need to understand why a guitar neck curves. Now, if you put heavier gauge strings on a guitar, the string gauge is going to pull on those that headstock, and it's going to make a bow in that neck. Now, if it's a lighter gauge string, the neck might back bow a little bit. Also, weather changes. If it's hot or if it's cold, we can have a little bit of variance in that neck a little bit too. So just be aware of that. Now, depending on what's happening, you can get a good gauge by grabbing a straight edge and placing it directly on top of the fretboard. And what you're going to do is you're going to look right around the 9th fret, and you're going to see if there's a gap in between the straight edge and the fret. Okay? Right now I can see that there's a considerable gap right there, which means that there's a slight up bow to the guitar. Now, if you don't have a straight edge, you can actually use the string as a straight edge, because the string is pretty much a perfectly straight thing when you think about it. And what we do, easy little measurement, is put your first finger down at the 1st fret and put your pinky finger down at the very last fret and just touch at the 12th fret right there on top of that string. I got a lot of room in there, right? So that's telling me that there's a lot of dip right in that area. So what's going to happen is we're going to need to tighten this truss rod in order for it to come back, right? If we were to loosen it, it would come up, right? So tighten, back, loosen, it comes up, okay? Basically what we found out was that we're going to need to tighten this truss rod in this instance, okay? Now, let me just show you as an example. If you put the straight edge on and there's a lot of gap up here, right, that's going to mean that the neck is bowing backwards, okay? So basically, if you're looking for a neck that's bowing up, look at the gap right around the 9th fret right here. If it's bowing back, check the gap back here. You can see. You can even kind of rock it on the fretboard to see how it feels. Get a good gauge for it. Okay, so we're going to need to tighten this truss rod in particular right here. Make sure that the truss rod tool is seated perfectly inside there. Don't begin twisting until it's perfectly seated. Okay? And once it's seated, I kind of understand the nature of this. I can kind of get a sense of how much it needs. But if you don't, take very, very minuscule increments in turning the truss rod. Don't just start cranking on it, because you don't know what's happening inside there. The rule of thumb would be 1/8 turn increments, basically, to make sure that you're not going too far or you're not harming anything at this point. If the truss rod has not been adjusted in a long time, it could be rusted. There could be some parts in there that are broken. So make sure if it's stuck, don't force it. Take it to a professional. Okay, so this particular guitar right here, I'm just going to start with just an 1/8 turn real quick. Okay, it was a little stiff, but it moved. Okay, take it out. The goal here is to have a perfectly straight neck. Okay, now most of the time you want to strive for that straight neck, but sometimes you're going to need to have a little bit of relief in the neck. And all relief is just a little bit of bow so that you don't buzz in the lower registers. Now, the nature of a string is that it vibrates in an elliptical pattern. So the biggest point at which it's vibrating is right there in the center. So to get rid of that buzzing, you're going to need to have a little bit of bow in there so that the string has room to kind of move around and it's not going to hit anything. You don't want it to hit any obstacles, right? So I measured the neck. It has a little bit of relief. I'll look at it at this point and make sure, see if it's good. At this point, it's kind of the standard of what the individual wants. Does it feel good at this point? Does the action feel nice? You might be done. I think it could go a little farther. I kind of want my neck a little straighter. All right, now on a guitar, it's just like anything else, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? If you're tightening, going to the right, I'm going to go about another 1/8 turn. Okay. Now on this particular instrument, the entrance for the truss rod is right here at the base of the nut right here. But on other instruments, there might be a cover that's covering it up so you can't see it. Or it might be down here at the base of the neck, to where you're going to have to take the neck off, and that might be a little more than you can handle, so you might need to take it to a professional at that point. Okay, so I tightened it an 1/8 turn. Let's check it out. Let's see if it's good. Seems about where I want it, actually. I can already kind of tell. Yep, and just got a little bit of relief in there so that the string can vibrate freely, and it feels really nice.
All right, there are some of the basics of truss rod adjustment. It could be a little intimidating. If you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, take it to your local professional, or better yet, take it to GC Garage.